Hi guys, I'm here with J.S. Riley. So you've just finished your first novel, right?
Yes, the first draft.
Okay, first draft of your first novel that you are wanting to publish, right?
Correct.
So we're going to talk with Mr. Riley here. And so the idea is that if you guys are aspiring authors out there, hopefully my channel can help you. And we're just going to kind of answer questions and dispel misconceptions. And I've got some questions for you as well.
And I will do my best to answer.
Yeah, so all right, let's get into it. Okay, so you finished your draft, you sent it over, and
Yes.
It was 220,000 words. So let's talk about kind of what it is. First of all, genre, like what?
Genre, it's a romantasy or a romantic fiction, as it were. An interesting take. Usually these types of stories, it's a female main character that is the focus. This is actually from the perspective of a male main character. Raised human, believes he's human, come around his 25th birthday, finds out the hard way, he is not. He is in fact Fae, or half Fae.
Okay.
Don't want to give too much away, but he finds out his mother is a Fae queen of legend. And due to things going on back in the Fae realm, the whole family has to pack up and return home, as it were.
Okay. Who exactly is this book for? Like, is this for friends and family? Is this for someone out there who's watching?
Hopefully it is for someone out there who's watching. I did not write this for only my audience to be friends and family, though I do hope my friends and family read it, enjoy it, and have a blast with it. My goal is, and my aspiration has always been, to eventually become a published author. I want to produce something that will entertain the masses.
Okay. So for someone out there, who is your ideal reader? Like who is this for then?
For the one who wants an escape and wants a laugh, and wants to have moments where someone just kind of grabs the heartstrings and they tear up a little bit, that's who this is for.
Okay. So you said romantasy. Is there spice?
Yes, there is. Not a lot, but it is open door.
There's no fade to black. Okay. So you're saying there's not a lot. So this is not crossing into like straight up erotica.
No, it is not.
Okay.
This is very much a fantasy story, but because it focuses on the main character finding his mate and their relationship developing and growing and being tested, there is intimacy between them. But that is not the focus. That is, as the story progresses, these two people are being intimate and enjoying each other. And then the story moves on.
Okay. So you're wanting to go beyond friends and family into like mass market type stuff.
Yes.
Okay. With that, you have to kind of think about like the mass market appeal. Obviously, you want as many people as possible to enjoy your writing and enjoy what you've spent so much time, creating and putting together.
Exactly.
Not really being a spicy reader myself, I don't know necessarily how many doors that may close. I do think that you need to be aware of kind of your audience's preferences as far as like if someone is picking this up looking for a fantasy read, then they might feel like they're getting detoured into smut.
Correct.
And if they pick it up looking for spice, then they might feel like their time is being wasted by, fantasy politics and stuff, right?
Correct.
So what's kind of, is that something you've had in mind? Is that a balance you've kind of worked with?
That's something I've had in mind between my wife and her sisters and some immediate friends. I have a group of people that do read the sort of stuff that I'm writing. So I kind of have a vague understanding of what my audience is expecting. We have one friend that's a good story is great. The smuttier, the better. And then, with my sister-in-laws and my wife, it's okay, a little bit of spice is great, but I'm here for the story. With enough of a spectrum on their opinion of this particular genre that having them be my proofreaders has really helped me gear the novel toward the audience that I'm shooting for.
So another reason that I asked about the scope, like, who is this for? Is this for friends and family or a wider audience? You're talking about wanting to be published.
Yes.
So are you wanting to go indie, or are you looking for a traditional publisher sort of deal?
Part of me wants traditional publishing. I would love to be able to go into a Barnes and Noble, go to the romance or fiction section, and find my book on the shelf. I'm not expecting it to be a bestseller. If it happens to become one, great. But there's just something about being able to go into a national bookstore chain and find my product on the shelf, knowing that it's being purchased and read by people.
Yeah. We did that a couple of weeks ago with one of the Penny Pangolin books.
Very nice.
Found it in a Barnes and Noble.
Very cool.
One of the difficulties with publishing today, and there's a lot of them, that is that traditional publishing deals, very often they don't do for authors as much as they used to. There's really not any escaping anymore the duty of promoting your own book after you've published it. So even with a traditional deal, you're still expected to do a lot of your own marketing and stuff like that. Otherwise, no store is ever going to pick it up because they don't know about it. I just remember seeing a story a couple years ago of an author who had a traditional publishing deal. She was published. She was one of the ones that we all kind of look at and like, yeah, I want to do that. And she had a book signing at a big bookstore. I don't recall if it was a Barnes and Noble or what. Not a single person showed up. And she took to Twitter later, back when it was Twitter, saying, this is my fault because I should have marketed it.
Right.
So even with a traditionally published deal, she had to do all of her own building awareness and building an audience. So I tend to find, and this has been just the experience of me and Wayne at least, is that in indie publishing, well, we're going to have to do all the marketing anyway.
Right.
Might as well maintain control also. Retain all the rights and, not have to split royalties as much.
Not having to do that would be nice, and having creative control. I mean, it came from me.
Right.
I want to retain as much creative control as possible.
Right. Now, the difficulty, though, with indie is that anyone can upload to Amazon KDP and hit publish. Or you can upload to some print-on-demand site and you can get some books printed.
Right.
And have it in your hand next week if you want. But if you're wanting it to be like read far and wide and everything, which we are still working on and struggling with, you have to be able to stand up above not to be offensive to indie authors out there, but there is kind of a slush pile of just all the low effort stuff, especially now with AI.
Right.
There's low effort stuff out there that just doesn't, you open it up and it doesn't feel like a real book. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that makes complete sense.
So in order to make it feel like a real book when you open it and you're like, okay, this is a legit novel, there's several different editing passes that have to happen that are all very different. And unfortunately, they can all be pretty expensive.
Right. Right now I have begun my initial editing process and I'm utilizing Grammarly.
Okay.
It's proved beneficial.
So what kind of editing is it doing for you?
Really what it's focusing on now, and I need it, is apparently I forget where commas go sometimes. So simple punctuation, Grammarly is all over it.
Okay. So it's editing at like the sentence level sort of stuff.
Yes.
Okay. I would say that's usually for kind of a later editing stage.
I do things backwards. I'm sorry.
Yeah. See, the trouble is that eventually if you get a developmental edit, then you're going to need to go back and do the Grammarly stuff again later.
Right.
So a developmental editor, have you heard of developmental editing?
I have not. I've heard of editing.
Okay.
I understand that there's different versions.
Yeah.
But
like I said, there's several different types of editing, and most books need to go through all of them in order to feel right.
Right.
And we do go through all of them with Penny Pangolin and Heroes of Time. The developmental editor's job is to point out to the author, couldn't they just fly the eagles to Mordor? That's the developmental editor, to find the plot holes and, well, wait, but this device could do this thing, so why couldn't they have used it here?
Right.
So
Okay.
so that's your developmental editor, and plot holes, plot devices, all that sort of stuff that just, as far as making the story fit together.
Okay.
They'll also focus a little bit on word choice, basically as far as, oh, well, this is unclear to a different sort of reader.
Right.
So this is one of the biggest pitfalls that indie authors usually fall into, is trying to do their own editing. It's strongly recommended not to do your own editing, because you know what you meant.
Right.
You are picturing things that may not necessarily have been typed out onto the page. You know to the nth degree exactly what that character looks like when it may not have been described. You know that they're wearing green when it doesn't actually say that they're wearing green, or whatever. So the developmental editor finds all that sort of stuff, helps with that kind of clarity. And, well, I meant this. Okay, well, let's phrase it this way.
So it makes sense to the reader.
Right.
Yeah, that makes sense. And it's having a different perspective to help you make your product better.
Yeah. The next thing is line editing, which is the sentence level clarity stuff like you were talking about. Then the next one after that is copy editing. So this is polish and just really, actually, no, this goes back to developmental editing, taking out all the parts that are not so good.
Right.
And finding entire scenes that you can delete.
Right.
Because especially with a 220,000 word novel, if you're looking for a traditional publisher, that's going to be a big obstacle, because a novel that big is more expensive to produce, and it's also just a bigger ask for a reader. Here, read this, and they see a Bible.
Yeah. War and Peace or The Hobbit. Which one's an easier one to overcome?
Right. So that kind of scares off traditional publishers. So I would say if you're serious about getting a traditional publisher, you need to cut mercilessly, all the parts that are, and this is something that a lot of authors also tend to say, and traditional ones too, will tend to say, oh, well, this opening might be a little bit, but if you just get to this part, no, you have to start with that part.
Right. If you can't get your reader within the first couple of paragraphs, then you may not get the reader.
And that's actually something that I'm sure a lot of authors have said that. I heard Pat Rothfuss say that to my boss, Wayne. We have a big, long video of our call with him, and I'll probably stick a little clip of that in here. But yeah, that opening hook. And I just remember him talking about taking out all the parts that are not so good until all the really good parts get closer and closer together, until, ultimately what you're doing is pressurizing the whole thing and turning it into a diamond.
Ever watch The Princess Bride? Every single line of dialogue is eminently quotable. And I guarantee it didn't start that way. He probably had more dialogue, and then he cut out all the stuff that wasn't amazing. And what happens is you're not like, oh man, I wish that scene was longer. You were like, yeah. And then you get another thing and you're like, that too, amazing. It's good bit, good bit, good bit. I always want to write it, and you got to just write it. And then you tweak it, you rearrange it. But then also I want to pull out everything that isn't brilliant, so that all the brilliant bits get real close together, and then it's like a diamond.
So we've got developmental editing, the big picture. We've got line editing, the sentence clarity. You've got copy editing, which will be just kind of final spelling stuff.
Fit and finish.
Yeah. And then finally, the very last one is proofreading, which would be basically going through and making sure you didn't create new problems with the previous edits.
We did all this work. Does the work work?
Yeah. So that has gotten us that in every single Heroes of Time book we have put out, there has been something that sneaks through that wasn't there in the first version, but got generated in the process of making the edits, and it makes it through into the first edition.
Where did you come from? Why are you here?
So if you get a first edition Murdoch's Shadow, There's a whole video on the mess up that happened there. But okay, so then the last thing, especially if you're wanting to become a full-time author,
That is my goal.
is to manage expectations. And bear in mind, I'm looking at my notes here. Authors Guild found in 2022 that the median income for full-time authors, $15,000.
Okay.
And for like all authors, not just full-time, the average was 2,000. Yeah. So manage expectations.
Okay.
Okay.
That, all right. That is good to hear, though.
It really does become a question of, do you want to get it out there enough that you're willing to invest that kind of money into it for all the different editing stuff? And,
Right.
And that's just to actually produce the book. Then you're talking about marketing and ad spend and all that sort of stuff. I'm not going to lie, it can be an absolute money pit.
Okay.
We're not going to talk finances on this channel. We won't show you those numbers, at least not until they start looking prettier. But
I appreciate that I have enough gray hair.
So one way to get around that is to get a traditional publishing deal. Frankly, it would have to be a really rare publishing deal that just doesn't happen very often these days.
Right.
So with a really rare publishing deal where they're like seriously invested and, okay, we really want to promote this, then yeah, you can sometimes get around the marketing cost.
Right.
But for that, it really would have to be one of those rare sort of stories that has pretty much universal appeal.
Right.
Because that's the only way they're really going to put resources behind it, is for something that to them as a business looks like a sure bet. And those deals are happening less and less because obviously nothing's getting any cheaper. People are frankly just spending less time reading. Now, normally I wouldn't pull up my business email on here in the middle of a video, but I do want to highlight this from a bookstore in the UK that was telling us today, UK adults are reading less than at any point in the past decade. The reading agency's 2025 report found that fewer than half of UK adults now consider themselves regular readers, down from 58% in 2015. The National Literacy Trust recorded 2025 as the worst year in 20 years for children's reading enjoyment, with only 1 in 3 children saying they enjoy reading in their free time. At the same time, British adults are now spending over 7.5 hours a day on screens, and for the first time ever, mobile phone use has overtaken television. The competition for attention and for the money in a parent's pocket has never been fiercer. What a time to be an author, right?
Oh, yeah, scary. As an author, that's not something that I want to think about too much. But it's the fact is it exists. But I have been writing in some capacity since I was in high school, which for y'all that's about 20 years, 22 years ago.
I imagine most of them are probably going, yeah, me too.
Yeah. So it's always been a dream of mine to, if not doing it full time where it is my sole income, doing it in a capacity where my book is out there. There are people reading it and enjoying it, and not just family and friends. Though I love my family and friends for supporting me in this, and I've got nothing but positive feedback.
Now see, that as an author, that would concern me just a little bit if it's been all positive feedback. Do you have someone who loves you enough to give you negative feedback?
Yeah, I do. And,
okay, that's encouraging.
And while the feedback from my group of readers has been mostly positive, there have been a few, hey, you might want to look at this, or this didn't come off right.
Okay.
So yes, there have been some critiques, and I've taken all the critiques to heart, even if I may have disagreed with the critique initially. It's like, okay, well, they mentioned it for a reason. let's go back, take a look at it, and see. And I think it's ended up, I have produced a better product because of it.
Now, are these your beta readers?
Yes.
Okay.
They all have the first draft now. They are hopefully all reading it now. I know one has completely finished it, and she was ecstatic with it. So that's very good to hear. I was
Nice.
surprised that she finished it within the first couple of days that I had sent the email. She thoroughly enjoyed it. She devoured it. That's great. That's one person, but that's great.
Yeah.
Really, I'm hoping some of my beta readers, they'll read it and they'll be like, all right, this. You need to take a look at.
Now, I would say take the advice of an editor over that of a beta reader.
Right.
A beta reader should largely be telling you how something makes them feel.
Exactly.
Not necessarily telling you what you should do about it.
Right.
And I'm going to take another clip from our video with Pat Rothfuss, and I'm going to put it in right here because he said something very wise that I cannot remember off the top of my head right now.
I was talking to Mary Robinette Kowal, who's a brilliant writer. I had my own way of thinking of it, but this is a better one. She says, I trust anyone to identify a symptom. There's very few people I trust to diagnose an illness, and only my doctor gets to prescribe medicine. And I'm like, oh my God, you're right. And the same is true with beta readers.
Makes sense.
Similar with an editor.
With an editor, yeah. My beta readers have done what I needed them to do. And every time I sent them something and they've read it, I'm like, I have 3 questions for them. Did you enjoy it? Did you find the characters engaging? Do you want to read more of this? Do you want to learn more of this? Do you want to see more of these characters?
Right.
If I can get yeses on those 3, then I've got something. It may need work, but I've got something.
Yeah. And I think you can target that a little bit further too. I mean, you can ask things like, were there any characters that kind of bored you? Were there any sections that kind of dragged? Stuff like that. So going back to Rothfuss again, he mentioned a beta reader telling him, you should remove this character. No. Tell me what you dislike about this character.
Right.
And we'll see if we can, figure out what's making you feel that way about the character.
And the same is true with beta readers. And this is the problem, is if you've gotten feedback back from beta readers, sometimes they'll write and they'll say something like, you need to cut this scene or something like that. Now, what they are doing there is prescribing. They've jumped to the end of the process. They're saying, do this, period. They're not saying why. They're not saying what their diagnosis is. They're not saying what the symptoms are. They're jumping straight to prescription. If somebody walked up to you on the street and they're like, get some sleep, I'd be like, you. Because what have they done, though? They've probably identified a symptom. I have dark circles under my eyes. Then they have gone to diagnosis. This person is tired. And then they have figured out what I need to do to fix their perception of my problem. But they're not my doctor. And your beta reader is not an editor.
So it took me over a year to get the first draft done. I started in January of last year. I finished mid-February, beginning of March of this year. And some of the sections that I sent off to my beta readers, some of the feedback I got back was it didn't really feel like there was some latent attraction between the two earlier before they became a couple. Okay. And I went through and reread.
Make the romance feel earned.
Yeah. And yeah, I rewrote it a little bit.
Did you have any questions for me about business, marketing, publishing, that sort of stuff? Or about the craft?
Yes, no. Truly, I feel sort of like a fish at sea. I'm here. But it's a big ocean, and I'm just now beginning to navigate it. I did the one thing I know to do, and that was...
And that's right.
And that's right.
Yeah.
Aside from that, I don't know how to do any of this. I'm not going to try to act like I know.
Welcome to the club. I cannot tell you how many times Wayne and I have said stuff like that, where it's like, oh my goodness, we thought writing was the hard part. No. Writing's the easy part.
It may take a while. Like I said, it took me over a year to get the first draft done, but that was the easy part.
Yeah. Getting
all the ideas up here on paper and having it somewhat make sense. But beyond that, yeah, I can't even begin to figure it out. I look forward to the journey.
Yeah. Well, look forward to seeing your book come together with all its editing and
Yeah.
everything else. So thank you so much for joining.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Well, that's going to be it for us today. And thanks a lot. And comment below with any questions that you may have and questions you might have for J.S. Riley here. And
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how much help I'll be, but I'll gladly offer any answers I can give.
Yeah. All right. And if you enjoyed this, let me know down in the comments. Hit the like button, all that good stuff. And we'll see you in the next one. Take care.